Creativity in the Age of COVID with Dr. Judi Bloom and Richard Skipper. It's the only program in which therapy and entertainment come together to show everyone not only how to cope in the age of COVID, but how to be creatively productive through it all. And now, Dr. Judi Bloom and Richard Skipper.
Happy Thursday, Judi. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Richard?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you. Today is all about female power because we have three very powerful women who are creating through COVID, and they've all had very successful careers. Some of them have had to pause for a little bit, but that didn't stop them. And they are back on track. They are creating and forging through where we're going right now. And I love Quinn Lemley. Quinn and I have known each other for longer than Quinn's been on this planet, I think. We've known each other. We go way, way back. We have done shows together. We've done benefits together. Quinn has, she is probably one of the hardest working women I know. She's an entrepreneur. She has an incredible show celebrating Rita Hayworth. And I really want her to talk about this show because it's not just the surface of Rita Hayworth, the goddess on stage, but she goes deep into the levels of her battles with Alzheimer's and who this woman was beyond the goddess. I'm going to show a clip, and I chose this clip because it shares the experiences of the audiences who come to see Quinn, and we will see Quinn on the other side of this. Here it is.
Quinn is Rita. It was amazing. It was so emotional. I laughed. I cried.
Quinn is Rita, only even better. You want to cry at the end, and yet she picks you up and says, look at all that she did. She's her own hero.
Quite terrific.
She was more than great. It wasn't just her singing, which is like, mwah. The acting that goes with the singing, the meaning that she put forward, that you really got a sense of what this woman's life was.
Quinn Lemley is a force of nature.
But Quinn, you have this show back after a while. I want to begin by asking you the same question I asked everyone else. If you could go back, is there anything that you've done that you wish that you could go back and undo in your career?
I was doing a show off Broadway. It was Siren Songs of the Silver Screen. And I was at Theater East, and it was an extended run. I think we played for like 10 months, and we were doing 5 shows a week. And I was invited to sing for the symphony in Indianapolis. And I was going to be a guest artist, and it was the winter. I was so nervous. And I got my charts together. All I had to do was sing like 4 songs. I mean, I prepared, I was ready, and we had a snowstorm, and I was at LaGuardia, and I was waiting. And 2 days later, I had my show back in New York. And, granted the flights were grounded and I couldn't go. And the show was the next day. And I regret that I didn't just rent a car and go, because I've never had a chance to sing with the symphony orchestra. And that would have been the gateway to something. And now touring as much as I do with all of our rock and roll shows and my shows in the companies, a symphony orchestra, it's a company, and we do whatever we need to do to get to wherever we need to be, because it takes a village to put on a show. And it's not just the performer or the musicians, it's the marketing. It's everything. There were so many people, and I was early and too young in my career to say, okay, it's 12 hours or 13 hours. I'll just get in the car and go, and I'll drive, and then I'll do the show, and then I'll drive back and do and be on stage in New York in time. And I really regret that because I've never had the opportunity to sing for a symphony orchestra again. And that is a dream of mine. And I sometimes I wonder if my fear was so great that I manifested this. No, I don't know. But, I was paralyzed about it because it was such a big opportunity. And then Mother Nature got in the way, but I didn't find a way to make it happen, which I would never do today.
But Quinn, how long have you been doing The Heat Is On? I know it's been years, but you've decided now to bring the show back. You are now in residence at Don't Tell Mama.
Yes.
It's been a while since, but you've brought it back and you've expanded the show, and you've brought it to a new level. What is different about doing the show now than it was when you first started doing the show?
Well, Dr. Bloom, I'm older. I have life's experience. No, I was in my 20s when we started doing the show, and it was a very different show than what it is now, musically, dramatically, and storytelling wise. And, I was where I was when I started, and I was more in love with the glamour and the pretense of it. You guys were talking about the red carpet and who these people, the surface of who people were. And then I met my husband, my manager, Paul Horton, and he completely changed the show. And Carter Inskeep, who's my writer director, we really started mining other deeper stories. And we also opened up the music from her films to the fabric of her life. So it opened up musically, and we put it to a 12-piece big band. But at Mama's, we're doing it with a quartet. So we couldn't fit all those people. But I did fit the big band at 54 Below. And I'll tell you, there was no room to move.
Oh.
But anyway, so I had been so busy directing and producing the past 4.5 years. And I was doing another show called Burlesque to Broadway, which is all about the power of women. And I hadn't done Rita for a while. And so with COVID, it was weird. I hadn't performed on stage for 2 years with COVID. And I was really nervous. And my husband, we were doing big performing arts centers and casinos. And he said, why don't you call Sidney Meyer and go back to where you began your career? And in the club that you started. And so, of course, I was thinking, I'll just do a jazz set, it'll be easy. And he's like, darling, it's been so long since you've done Rita, and you need to introduce her story to the new women. And so it just so happened that Carter, during COVID, rewrote the entire book. So you can imagine, Richard, relearning every one of your lines in a different way and telling things in a different story. It was kind of crazy, but it was wonderful. We incorporated the Me Too movement. We really sauced up her dialogue because Rita Glenn Ford said she had a mouth like a sailor. And so, we really created it so that we always broke the fourth wall, but this time it was just really Karen, like really getting emotional and touching that audience, and it's we just go there now, like the heartbreak that she felt with Orson Welles and trying to make fantasy life with a Prince Ali Khan. She was the first princess, and just, and being a mother and then dealing with the alcoholism. The tragedy was everyone thought it was alcoholism, not Alzheimer's. And
I remember very vividly because I was that kid that read the fan magazines. And I remember seeing the headlines of her getting off of a plane and those pictures of her where she was being accused of being an alcoholic when it was the early stages of Alzheimer's. She was scheduled, and you can, talk more about this. She was supposed to come into Applause on Broadway, and she was having trouble remembering her lines. And that was in the newspapers that she was having trouble remembering her lines. And the press was nasty to her, not knowing what was really going on. And of course, we didn't have a name for it then. And so, what have you learned about yourself from delving into those areas that are so dark, that a lot of people are still, I think we've gotten more where people are talking about it, but people are still, it's still an area where people still don't know a lot about. What have you learned about this?
Well, I mean, Rita Hayworth was the first celebrity to be I don't know how to say, but it came out that she had Alzheimer's, that was announced. Prince, and it was because of her strength and foresight as a mother and as a woman when she was divorcing Ali Khan, that she fought for the equal inheritance as the boys. And that was Rita Hayworth. A lot of people don't think of her as her strength. She had her own production company in the end. I mean, she tried to do everything that she could as if things were unraveling, but she was really a powerful woman in her own soft, fiery Latina way. But the Alzheimer's, they do that Alzheimer's Foundation every year, and it was Princess Yasmin who took care of her at the end, and she actually became the head of the Alzheimer's Foundation, and really put a light on awareness of that. But I have to say, I mean, there were so many issues that we deal with in this play. It's it's not a sad play, even though we go deep in the issues. It's a celebration of this woman's strength, her power, her beauty, the gifts that she gave to the world, and her creativity in a time where you had to play the game. There was a series on Marilyn Monroe on CNN, and Marilyn Monroe came out and said, "Look, there are a million girls that are willing to play the game," and I deal with that in our show too. When she lost her role, Daryl Zanuck fired her because she wouldn't play the game with him. And not that she didn't play the game, she did, but she wanted to choose who she played with. So, there were just so many aspects of female empowerment in this play, and Carter really, we delve down deep into it, but it's told with such humor and pathos. Preparing for our opening in September, just being together, it was like therapy in a way. I mean, theater is, but oh, I should say this line, or oh, that's what that means. And a lot of things, Richard, things there's no way I could have understood at 20 that I understand now, that we are an indiscriminate age of fabulousness and je ne sais quoi. We've known each other for a very long time.
Yes, that's true.
Before we were born.
Yes, before we were born, I think lifetimes ago.
There has to be a difference for you as a performer when you're performing a character who you obviously really love. As a person, you really love this person, right? Versus playing a character who you may not like, right?
Yeah.
Because you're an actor, you play all kinds of characters, right? And I'm wondering for you personally how that resonates with you, how you deal with that difference with those you love and those you really don't like.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's delicious to play, really hateful characters. Look at Lady Gaga in the Gucci film. Oh, she's divine. Yeah. And, that I love playing those kinds of roles. But Rita is really a kindred soul for me. And I don't feel that. I feel like I'm channeling. I'm not acting. And I feel that she's with me, and if I have to ad lib or whatever, I just feel really present, and I just know her story so well. But the biggest thing that Carter and I, our journey was, who was Margarita Cancino and who was Rita Hayworth, and her whole thing was that they went to bed with Gilda and woke up with me, but we're all Margarita Cancino. We're all that little girl or little boy that wants to be loved and wants people to approve of us. And the Rita Hayworth character, the glamour, the untouchable love goddess, she was on the first star, her poster, her pinup was on the atomic bomb, the last atomic bomb. And that was really a source of angst for her. And they called her, la vedette atomique. And that was and she hated war. So, that image just kept being used. So for me, I love the character. I love the good and the bad and the ugly of her. I mean, it's just all delicious. And the other thing that was really fun was we decided that we were going to show it and embrace it. And because of it, we've gotten rave reviews, and we just got extended through June 23rd.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, I mean, and New York One did a big piece on us last month. And so it must be resonating, because, I mean, a lot of women are coming out and, saying, oh my God, I relate to this. And also we deal with, the sexual abuse she had with her father and first husband. So, you hear people go, oh, I don't want to go there. And we're like, don't worry. I'm not going to, gonna paint a picture for you.
Wow. Good for you.
What was your Shark Tank thing? I saw that you were a finalist on Shark Tank.
Yes. So we had started this one show that Richard knows about, and then it turned into Burlesque to Broadway, which is my show that celebrates the icons that went from burlesque to Broadway and beyond. It was a wonderful show, but it was during the height of the recession. There were so many things that we wanted to do with it. I'm a Toastmaster, and we auditioned for Shark Tank, and then we got called back, and then we were supposed to be on for season 5. And we spent 6 months with the producers, because you have to do all your financials, your historicals, what you want to do. And so
Shark Tank calling you now.
Yeah, Shark Tank's calling me. I know they're calling Dr. Bloom. Yeah. So anyway, it's a reality show, so they keep you off kilter. And so you're told, like, within 3 days you have to go to LA and do your thing. And we'd worked on our pitch and everything. I had my neighbor she does statistics, and I'm not very good at Excel. And I said, would you look at my formulas? And so I had to tell her what I was doing. And she said, oh, well, if the sharks don't bite, I would love to invest in your show. And so the next day, the producers called and said that they're not investing in the entertainment sector this season. And so then I got my full investment. We got the best partner ever, because she's totally opposite me. She's brainy and smart and numbers oriented. And I'm like, I'm just like, oh, I want to be fabulous and glamorous. And she was just the perfect partner for us. And the show it just took off, and we went all over Canada and North America and casinos and performing arts centers. So it was great. With feathers and sequins and fans.
Great. How you feel that your work has impacted your life beyond the stage, and how you feel that your life has brought life to the work that you do on stage. Quinn, I want to ask, what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned about yourself during COVID, as far as your creativity is concerned, that you think that you will carry forward beyond COVID as we come through this pandemic, hopefully very soon? Yes.
Thank you. That's a great question, Richard. My resourcefulness, there's always a way to do and learn anything if you're open to it, and the universe does provide. My mother always says that, but you have to trust and be willing to do the work. When Broadway was closed down in New York, I remember that day very well, Karen. My husband and I were celebrating our first wedding anniversary in Maroma, Mexico. We had our little dog, Zoe. We went there, and then everything closed down the next day when we got there. So we're at the resort where we got married, this fabulous 5-star resort. All the resorts started closing down, and it was all like Brits and Canadians and Europeans and Mexicans and Americans. We wound up being the only people there for 3 months with our dog and another couple, Vinny and Nancy. I filmed it. I filmed every aspect of like the exodus of all the people, the fear, like there was no COVID there. Anyway, when I came back to New York, it was Manhattan Neighborhood Network is a cable network for filmmakers, and it's a wonderful resource for people. And they had these online premiere classes. I became obsessed with learning how to edit, and I started filming, and I made a documentary. It took me 6 months to edit it. Paul and I had so much footage of all the food, and like it was just interesting because nature was encroaching, and I just started making these documentaries, and they air the first Sunday of every month at 7:30 on M&N.
Wow.
My musical director, voice teacher, he and his husband and his dog, Oscar Hammerstein, and Paul and our dog Zoe, we were bubbled together. So we spent Thanksgiving, and we like, I filmed everything, like how to shop and the drama of it, and standing out at line at Fairway and Citarella for 2 hours to get in line, because we had to social distance, and then how you cook. And they were the first people we had in our house, and opening the window. I mean, it was just like this whole thing. And so I did a documentary on that. And then also during the election, we were so worried because the lines were so long for voting and people were stopping voting. And so Paul and I produced a show called Broadway on the Line, and we hired 36 artists to entertain people and to stay in the line to vote. We didn't care if who they voted for, and we paid them, and we had stilt walkers and singers and musicians.
That's great. We're going to wrap up because we are at the end of our show. Just to let you all know, I'm going to have my final remarks, and as always, Judi, you've got the last word today. I want to thank everybody who tuned in today, and I'm going to start I'm going to end where we started. I pulled a question randomly. And the question is, what's the one thing that you did that you wish that you could go back and undo? We aren't given a chance for redoing. So I'm thinking that since we're not given that chance, let's just go for it. Let's, when that chance comes our way, who's to say, I love what Therese said earlier on, that she wishes that she had not listened to those people who said, you can't do this. I grew up on a tobacco farm in South Carolina. A lot of my friends know my story. For the first 18 years of my life, everybody said, you can't go to New York. You can't do this. You can't. I didn't listen. When I was 18 years old, one of my favorite books is The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol. It says in the book, set your mind on a goal like a homing pigeon and go after it. And I announced to my family when I was 13 years old that 5 years from August 5th, 1974, I was going to come to New York. And I did. And I never looked back. And that's the way I live my life. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way I planned, but I go for it. I've learned a lot this past year, and especially over the past few months. I don't know about you, but it seems like, especially this month of January, it seems like every time I go on Facebook, we're reading about another celebrity who has passed away. Bob Saget. He one performance in the middle of a tour that he was scheduled to do. One performance, and he's gone. So we're not promised tomorrow. I don't want this to sound morbid. That's not my intent. Get out and do those things that matter to you. This is it. Do it. Do it. Do it. So get out, do the things that matter to you. Go for those things. Who cares if someone's going to say no to you or someone's going to say you can't do it? That's their issue, not yours. So go out and do those things. I want to thank everybody who showed up today. If you enjoyed today's show, please, if this is your first time, subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates. Leave a comment here on YouTube. Share this with your friends. As our dear friend David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. This one.
My message is you never know who's sitting next to you that can help you on your journey. You just never know, like my friend, the Toastmaster that changed my life. So you just keep going for it because you never know who you're going to meet along the way.
Absolutely. The difference between a dream and a goal is a plan, an actionable plan. So work backwards from where you want to wind up. Look a year ahead, 2 years ahead. As he said, it was five, I think he said 5 years ahead when he was a kid. And start breaking that down backwards into years, months, weeks, days, hours. Get it on the calendar. If you write it down on the calendar at a specific time, on a specific day, it's an appointment. It's an appointment with yourself. And that's the most important appointment that you're going to make that day. So really understanding it's non-negotiable. This is what matters to you. And that's all that really matters. And anybody who tells you that you can't do it, that's up to them. That's their problem. You know what you can accomplish if you put your mind to it. And that's how we live, following two paths, looking forward while still living in the present. Just don't lose sight of your goals, and your dream will eventually become your reality.
Quinn is Rita. It was amazing. It was so emotional. I laughed. I cried.
Quinn is Rita, only even better. You want to cry at the end, and yet she picks you up and says, look at all that she did. She's her own hero.
Quite terrific.
She was more than great. It wasn't just her singing, which is like, mwah, the acting that goes with the singing, the meaning that she put forward, that you really got a sense of what this woman's life was.
Quinn Lemley is a force of nature.